The ice is melting, and the wolves are gathering. For decades, the Canadian Arctic was a frozen fortress, protected by geography and the quiet assumption that America would always be there to guard the gate. But that assumption has melted faster than the sea ice. In the cold calculus of modern geopolitics, Canada has realized a terrifying truth. The greatest threat to its sovereignty might not come from Russia or China, but from its oldest ally. Canada has the longest coastline in the world. It is a frontier that stretches beyond the horizon, guarding resources that the rest of the planet is desperate to control. And recently, the government in Ottawa drew a line in the snow. Prime Minister Mark Carney stood before the nation and announced the single largest military procurement in Canadian history: 12 advanced submarines, stealthy, lethal, capable of vanishing under the Arctic ice for weeks at a time. This was not just a purchase order, it was a declaration of independence. Today, we are showing you how Canada is building an Arctic defense infrastructure that operates completely independently of the United States. We will look at the new over-the-horizon radar system launching in 2026, designed to detect threats 3,000 kilometers away without American technology. And we will reveal how President Trump's pressure to seize control of the North didn't break Canada's resolve, it accelerated their plan to defend it alone. Before we dive into this story, if you appreciate in-depth analysis like this, hit that like button and subscribe to stay informed on the stories that truly matter. Why is Canada building an independent Arctic defense now? The timing is not coincidental. It is a direct response to a threat. President Trump's national security strategy, released in November 2025, explicitly called for establishing United States dominance in the Western Hemisphere, including Greenland. The document stated clearly that America would reassert and enforce the Monroe Doctrine. It promised to ensure continued access to key strategic locations. That includes the Northwest Passage, the critical sea lane connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Canadian Arctic archipelago. For decades, this waterway was managed by a gentleman's agreement. The 1988 Arctic Cooperation Agreement stated that the United States would seek Canadian consent before sending icebreakers through the passage. Trump's strategy notice terminated that arrangement. +1. Washington now views the passage as strategically vital for deterring Russia and China. The new policy states, the United States cannot afford, for reasons of deterrence and defense, a contingent capacity requiring Canadian permission. Translation: America wants unilateral access to Canadian Arctic waters, without asking, without negotiating. By declaring it a national security necessity, Mark Carney watched Trump threaten to annex Greenland. He watched Trump seize Venezuela's president and resources by military force. Carney understood the message immediately. If Trump views Arctic control as necessary for American security, Canada has two choices: defend its sovereignty independently or lose it. So, Canada is building defense infrastructure that does not require American approval, American technology, or American permission to operate. The submarine program is the centerpiece of this new strategy. Canada plans to acquire up to 12 conventionally powered submarines. This is potentially the largest single defense procurement in the nation's history, worth between 20 and 60 billion Canadian dollars. On August 26th, Carney announced the two finalists: Germany's ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems and South Korea's Hanwha Ocean. +1. Carney personally toured the German facilities in Kiel and the Hanwha shipyard on Geoje Island. The requirements for these boats are specific and demanding. They must operate in the Arctic, submerged under thick ice, for weeks at a time. They need extended range and endurance to provide stealth, persistence, and lethality. Canada demands a deployment range of 3,500 nautical miles and a covert patrol capability of 21 days. +1. Hanwha promises to deliver 4 submarines by 2035 if the contract is signed in 2026. The first delivery would arrive in 2032, followed by 1 per year until all 12 are delivered by 2043. The estimated cost sits between $20 and $24 billion. The ThyssenKrupp Group offers established reliability, having supplied 70% of NATO's conventional submarine fleet. They emphasize Arctic-capable performance and proven logistics. Either way, the outcome is the same. Canada gets submarines designed for Arctic operations that function independently of American technology. Once operational, these submarines will patrol Canadian Arctic waters. They will monitor the Northwest Passage. They will enforce sovereignty without requiring a single United States Navy vessel to assist. This is the pattern that keeps repeating. Trump applies pressure. Trump threatens sovereignty. Trump demands submission, and the result is allies building alternatives that reduce American leverage. Trump threatened Canada with annexation. He joked about Canada becoming the 51st state. He suggested that American military control of Arctic resources might be necessary for national security. The intended effect was intimidation to force Canada to accept American primacy in the Arctic. The actual effect was acceleration. Canada moved faster on independent defense procurement than anyone expected. Carney personally visited submarine facilities in Germany and South Korea. Canada formalized a technology partnership with Australia, and initial construction on the new radar system starts in the winter of 2026, years ahead of previous timelines. +1. Canadian polling shows this resonates domestically. 80% of Canadians believe Arctic sovereignty must be used, or Canada risks losing it. Historical and legal titles are not enough anymore. Canada must be present physically. When asked about the potential American annexation of Greenland, only 7% of Canadians wanted their government to keep a low profile. Half supported diplomatic action. The other half backed a forceful response, including sanctions on the United States or military support for Greenland. Trump's rhetoric has united Canadians across the political spectrum in a determination to defend their northern border. It eliminated domestic opposition to massive defense spending. Prairie premiers who normally oppose federal spending are supportive. Ontario manufacturers see economic opportunity in building the fleet. Quebec recognizes the strategic necessity. British Columbia understands the Pacific security implications. Carney can now justify $38.6 billion for NORAD modernization, $60 billion for submarines, billions more for Arctic infrastructure, ports, airfields, and communications. Because Trump made the threat undeniable, Canada realized it had to build independent defense capability or become subordinate to American demands. The Australia connection is a brilliant piece of strategy. Australia developed over-the-horizon radar independently to face similar sovereignty challenges. Their northern approaches were vulnerable, vast empty spaces impossible to patrol with conventional radar. Australia's Jindalee operational radar network has been operational for decades. 3 radar stations covering Australian approaches with a detection range of thousands of kilometers. It is proven technology. Canada is licensing this Australian technology and adapting it for the harsh Arctic environment. This involves knowledge transfer, technical cooperation, and interoperability planning. But the actual infrastructure is Canadian, built on Canadian soil, operated by Canadian personnel, under Canadian command. This gives Canada several advantages: proven technology with decades of experience, independence from American systems, and diplomatic flexibility. The partnership also signals something important to other American allies. You do not need Washington for critical defense technology. Middle powers can cooperate. They can build capabilities serving mutual interests without American involvement. The radar is just one piece of the puzzle. Canada is building comprehensive Arctic infrastructure that establishes a permanent presence. 4 radar sites when fully operational, 2 to transmit, 2 to receive. Initial capability is expected by 2029. Full capability by the early 2032. These sites will cover all approaches to the Canadian Arctic, detection of aircraft, cruise missiles, potentially even ballistic missile trajectories. +1. Submarine bases on both coasts, maintenance facilities, training infrastructure, logistics support. Once built, These facilities lock in capability for 50 years. The submarines will operate until the 2070 seconds or 2080 seconds. The infrastructure remains relevant across multiple submarine generations. Canada is also procuring a dedicated polar communications satellite as part of the modernization effort, because existing satellite networks do not provide adequate coverage above 70 degrees north latitude.